The cow and the ox share the same origin. The aurochs, a wild beast that no longer exists. We domesticated it, transformed it, and that's how two animals were born that would change the course of human history. Did you know that one of them helped build empires while the other was worshipped as a deity? Or that their most important difference isn't in their bodies, but in what humans made them become? Behind their names lie human choices, biology, history, and even drama. Stick around to the end because this isn't just livestock, it's evolution. To begin, let's make one thing clear. The cow and the ox are not different species. Both belong to the species Bos taurus, but what separates them runs much deeper. A cow is an adult female that has had at least one calf, while an ox is a castrated male that has been trained, usually for heavy labor. This hormonal and functional difference already creates a big gap in their behavior and their bodies. The ox is typically much more robust and muscular, especially in the front half, because they were selected to pull loads and work the fields. Cows, on the other hand, have a more balanced frame and well-developed udders for milk production. An ox's neck is shorter and heavily muscled due to draft and hauling work. The cow, by contrast, has a thinner, longer neck, suited to reproductive biology and grazing. That's a handy physical cue to tell them apart, at a glance. Although oxen often have shorter, thicker horns because of castration and work use, there are breeds and individual oxen that can grow large, striking horns, just like cows. Horn size and shape depend far more on breed genetics and nutrition than on whether the animal is a cow or an ox. That's why it's not unusual to see oxen with truly impressive horns, even if their main role is still as working animals. On the other hand, the cow is a social animal that moves in herds and displays active, cooperative behavior. The ox, being castrated, becomes more docile and calm, ideal for being handled by people in agricultural tasks. When a bull is castrated to become an ox, its body goes through a major shift. Testosterone production drops dramatically. That directly affects its behavior, making it calmer and less aggressive. It also reduces the release of pheromones and scents that attract cows, so the ox loses interest in mating and is less combative with other males. That's why they're much easier to handle out in the field. For more than 10,000 years, humans domesticated the wild aurochs, the common ancestor of cows and oxen. And from that moment on, each followed a very different path. The cow was seen as a source of food in almost every culture: milk, meat, and hide. Modern dairy cows are the outcome of centuries of selective breeding to maximize production. On the other hand, the ox was the agricultural engine of the ancient world. In Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, and Europe, oxen were indispensable for plowing fields, moving heavy loads, and even pulling chariots in times of war. They were, quite literally, the backbone of agricultural development. In ancient Egypt, the ox was not just a beast of burden. It was silent strength, patience made flesh, and above all, an essential pillar of the agrarian world. While the Nile set the rhythm of the year with its floods, Egyptians relied on the ox to work the fertile soil the river left behind. Castrated to make it more docile and enduring, this animal withstood long days of plowing, without complaint, without pause. But its value went far beyond physical labor. In some depictions of the goddess Isis, symbol of fertility and renewal, 3 ox heads appear, not by accident. Each one represented a key moment in the agricultural cycle: the flooding, the sowing, and the harvest. Thus, the ox became a symbol of sacred time, of the natural order that governed life and death, scarcity and abundance. Both are ruminants, which means they have a complex digestive system with 4 compartments that lets them ferment and break down the cellulose in grasses. They eat grass, hay, and pasture. But here's an interesting nuance. Because oxen worked throughout the day, they typically had more controlled, energy-dense diets tailored to their physical workload. Cows, by contrast, follow a diet focused on sustaining lactation and steady milk production. In some ancient cultures, oxen were even given beer or fermented gruels before heavy tasks to boost their energy. So while they essentially eat the same things, their nutritional needs and how their feeding is managed create a meaningful difference between the two. Both live in rural environments, but with differences in their use and management. Cows are usually kept in barns or well-defined pastures, focused on dairy or beef production, with strict production cycles and sanitary controls. Oxen, on the other hand, were raised on broader, more rugged land, set up for hauling routes or agricultural work. Training an ox was an art passed down from generation to generation. They were taught to respond to commands, walk in a straight line, and even synchronize with another ox in double yokes. This training began around 2 years of age. As for longevity, a cow can live between 15 and 20 years, while an ox, depending on the intensity of the work, could have a shorter life, although some exceptional individuals surpassed 25 years. During World War I, some oxen were used to transport munitions across terrain where even horses couldn't pass. It's said that in France, an ox named Constantine was decorated for endurance and bravery after hauling ammunition through combat zones. Although there are no official records to confirm it, the story has been told as an example of the quiet sacrifice these animals made during the war. In 1930, a cow named Elm Farm Ollie became the first to fly on an airplane, and the first to be milked mid-flight as part of a demonstration at an agricultural fair, showcasing the future of aviation. The Chianina ox, originally from Italy, was among the largest domesticated animals in history, with individuals reaching 1.8 meters in height and weighing up to 1,600 kilos. By comparison, an average dairy cow weighs between 600 and 800 kilos. In Spain, oxen aren't just working animals. They're living symbols of devotion, culture, and deep-rooted tradition. One of the best examples is the Romería del Rocío in Andalusia, one of the largest religious pilgrimages in Europe. In this celebration, flower-adorned carts with banners and saints are pulled by carefully selected oxen, guided by expert yoke handlers who keep a centuries-old tradition alive. These oxen are treated with almost ceremonial respect. They're trained for months, dressed in ornate collars, and proceed in procession to the rhythm of drums and flamenco chants. This ceremonial use of oxen also appears in other regions like Galicia, Castile and León, or Extremadura, Spain, where they've been seen pulling thrones in processions or taking part in livestock fairs. More than beasts of burden, the oxen in these celebrations embody the rural soul, the bond between people and the land, between the sacred and the everyday. Their presence in pilgrimages carries not only practical value, but a deep emotional and cultural weight. So, what's the real difference between a cow and an ox? Beyond their bodies, the key difference lies in the role humans assigned them. One stands for nourishment, the other stands for strength. One is a symbol of fertility, the other of tireless work. Although they often go unnoticed, Both the cow and the ox have been fundamental pillars in human history. The next time you see one grazing or working in the field, remember you're looking at far more than animals. You're looking at a living piece of our story. If you enjoyed this journey, hit like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover more secrets of the wild animal world. See you next time.